The warrior in World of Warcraft is no doubt one of the most iconic classes that people flock to because they normally end the expansion pretty overpowered, but sometimes a bit of a slow start. So are they going to have a slow start in Cataclysm, you're probably asking? The answer to that is absolutely not. They come out swinging right out of the gate and they continue to pump all the way through the expansion. While there's tons more changes to the warrior that we'll definitely be discussing in future videos, in today's we're going to talk about my personal top 10 changes that the warrior sees in Cataclysm. Before we jump in though, if you haven't already seen, Rested XP have got the Cataclysm pre-order guide available now, so link in the description and the pinned comment. Of course, it is an affiliate link, so any guide you buy goes towards supporting the channel. But just remember, the current one you're using for Wrath, that isn't going to work because the world has changed completely. Coming in at number 1 would have to be the addition of Colossus Smash. Now, Colossus Smash costs 20 rage and it's on a 20-second cooldown. It can be used in battle stance and berserker stance, and it doesn't really matter what spec you're playing outside of being a tank. You will be using this as part of your rotation. What it does is smashes the target for 150% weapon damage plus X amount of damage as well, and weakens their defenses, allowing your attacks to entirely bypass 100% of their armor for 6 seconds. Now, what you've got to remember about Cataclysm is armor pen is no longer a thing. That stat will unfortunately disappear completely when the pre-patch hits. So now, as a warrior, you can bypass 100% of their armor for 6 seconds, and the way you're going to want to use this ability is really cool. If not, maybe kind of obvious. You're going to want to maximize as much damage in that 6-second window as you possibly can. So you're not just going to Colossus Smash when you've got 20 rage, you're going to wait until you're nearly rage capped, use it, and then squeeze in as many abilities as you can in that 6 seconds to get the most benefit out of it. Now, another really good interaction is from a talent called Sudden Death. So your melee attacks have a 6% chance of resetting the cooldown on Colossus Smash as well, and you keep 10 rage after using Execute. Now, this is really important because it means more time with 100% armor pen. And quite honestly, even though it's only 6%, it does feel like it procs an awful lot. Overall, it had to be number 1 because honestly, it's an amazing ability, and not only is it amazing because of the sheer amount of damage you do while the debuff's present, the fact that you can use it more than every 20 seconds as well is pretty sick. When you can chain it back to back and you might have, I don't know, 12, 18 seconds of 100% armor bypass, pretty good. In at number 2 has to be, in my opinion, one of the best looking abilities in the game, and it just feels so good to use. Heroic Leap. Now, as a warrior, you're already pretty mobile with things like charge or intercept or intervene, but now you've just got this 1-minute cooldown leap, which not only does it bridge a gap or get you from the boss to some adds ready to charge back into the boss again, but also does a decent amount of damage when you land. So what Heroic Leap does is you leap through the air towards a targeted location, slamming down with destructive force, dealing X amount of damage, depending of course on your stats and your gear, and that does all that damage to all enemies within 8 yards. Now, honestly, while it's quite a basic one to talk about and don't really need much explanation, it just looks so good that it had to make it into number 2. In fact, it was very nearly going to be my number 1 change, to be honest, because it just is that cool to use. And by the way, this is just a trained ability, it's not a talent, so you will get it as any spec warrior you play. Next up at number 3 is Blood and Thunder. Now, this talent is absolutely amazing. Again, no matter what spec warrior you play, you will need to take the talent, of course, but as arms, it's usable, as fury, it's usable, as proc, it's usable, and you're probably going to want it for most. What it actually does is when you thunderclap a target affected by your rend, you've got a 100% chance with 2 points in it to affect every target with rend nearby. And talking about arms in particular, the reason it's really strong is because rend is just part of your rotation. You'll always want it on your primary target and you'll never let it drop off, and there's actually ways that you keep it up without reapplying it, which we will get to shortly. But being able to just chuck in a quick thunderclap when there's a big load of adds, it is so satisfying. And thinking about Protection Warrior, normally AoE tanking can be a bit of a chore, but not anymore. Charging in, getting a rend on, and then spreading it to everything, all of the adds will just stick to you like glue. Again, there's not really a lot else to say there because I think you can just imagine without even playing with it yet, that's what she said, that it's super strong. Coming in at number 4 is Inner Rage. Now, Inner Rage is a new ability you're going to get, and it's actually an incredibly important ability because the way you use your fillers has now changed. So Heroic Strike and Cleave now have a cooldown, and they cost a bit more rage, but they're instant and no longer on your next swing. So where ordinarily you'd queue up a Heroic Strike and the next time you're due to hit the boss, it will do that attack instead, which will just increase the amount of damage that that attack does. But now it's got a very short cooldown of 3 seconds. It costs 30 rage, but it is a real filler now. Because when you're auto-attacking, you'll do the Heroic Strike as an actual extra attack. So the reason Inner Rage is really important is because what this actually does is it reduces the cooldown of Heroic Strike and Cleave by 50% for 15 seconds. So it will bring it down to a 1.5 second cooldown. So in times of burst and you've got lots of rage, or maybe you've got other cooldowns popped, which we will talk about soon, where things don't cost any rage at all, you can be chucking out Heroic Strikes like nobody's business, or obviously even cleaving lots and lots of mobs down. And what you got to remember about Inner Rage, it's only on a 30-second cooldown and it's up for 15 seconds. So there's not that much downtime of this ability. In fact, you've got it up pretty much half of the time if you're using it on cooldown, which might not be the case all the time. Coming in at number 5 is Vengeance. Now, it's quite a weird one to talk about in a warrior-specific video, but it does just make all of these tanking classes feel so much fun to play. Now, what Vengeance does is each time you take damage, you gain 5% of the damage taken as attack power up to a maximum of 10% of your health. So the more health you've got, the more attack power you can gain from this. Now, the Vengeance tooltip can be a little bit misleading, but honestly, to the vast majority of people, it doesn't really matter because it actually caps at around 7.7 to 8% of your maximum health, because when they buffed stamina late in the patches, they didn't want to buff Vengeance at the same time. So Vengeance actually caps at a number equal to stamina plus 10% of base health, which is actually lower than 10% of total health. Again, maybe seeing the tooltip updated to save confusion would be a good thing in Cataclysm Classic, but quite honestly, 90% of people wouldn't notice anyway. But still, the same applies. The more stamina that you've got, increasing the more health that you've got, is going to increase the potential cap that you can get your Vengeance stacked to. And once you start getting the Vengeance nice and high, you really do start absolutely trucking things. And quite honestly, I'm not normally a fan of tanking. It's one of the things I do the least in the game. But when you're out DPSing DPS on trash packs and stuff like that, because you're getting that real quick burst of Vengeance because you're taking so much damage from so many targets, it does feel pretty fantastic. Number 6, again, is a very, very quick one, but a really good addition, and that's Rallying Cry. Now, Rallying Cry is on a 3-minute cooldown, and it temporarily grants you and all your party or raid members within 30 yards 20% maximum health for 10 seconds. After the effect expires, the health is lost. So now having a super powerful cooldown that you can use on fights like Chimeran, for example, where you're all stacked and you need big heals, you can just pop a Rallying Cry and actually be included in part of a cooldown rotation. Just feels really, really good. And this is not spec specific. All 3 specs get this ability because it's just from the trainer. The only one minor downside for a tank is it should share a cooldown with Last Stand. So you can't have both up at the same time, but once one drops, you can then use the other one. But as a warrior, just having utility actually for the raid, or should I say more utility for the raid, is just a really great addition. Now, Lambs to the Slaughter is my number 7, and you'll very quickly understand why. What Lambs to the Slaughter does for 3 points in the arms tree, your Mortal Strike causes the Slaughter effect, which refreshes the duration of rend on the target and increases the damage of your Execute, Overpower, Slam, and Mortal Strike by 10%, and this lasts 15 seconds and stacks 3 times. And this is the talent I was talking about earlier, where you don't need to refresh rend manually anymore, because every time you Mortal Strike, it's going to refresh the duration anyway. And then when you're then popping a nice Blood and Thunder using your Thunderclap, you're just going to see bleeds everywhere. Not only that, Mortal Strike is only on a 4.5 second cooldown, so you're using Mortal Strike very, very often, and being able to get a triple stack of Lambs to the Slaughter before a huge Execute feels really, really satisfying. Ultimately, this really is a talent that you're not going to play around too much. So what I mean by that is you're not going to worry about consuming it early or consuming it late, because ultimately you're going to be wanting to use these abilities like as quickly as possible, if you know what I mean. So it's not like you're going to always wait for 3 stacks before you press Overpower or Slam or something like that. But when you can get 3 stacks before you do, as I say, an Execute or something like that, particularly in PvP, it feels really, really nice. In at number 8 is actually a really basic one, but it's how good your abilities are at level 10. So if you're not aware, when the talent system changes, you get a big ability for your spec as soon as you ding level 10 and you choose between one of the 3 specs. Now, I find the warrior ones absolutely insane. In some cases, for some classes, 1 or 2 of the abilities will be really good, but rarely are all 3 as strong as a warrior's. So for arms, you're going to get Mortal Strike, which, as I say, is on a 4.5 second cooldown. If you decide to go Fury, you're going to get Bloodthirst, which is just on a 3 second cooldown. And as you know, Bloodthirst also does some nice healing. And as a protection warrior, you're going to get Shield Slam. Now, all of these are ridiculously strong, depending on what you want to level as. If you was to level as Fury, so you've got Bloodthirst, and then it won't take long before you get Victory Rush, where Victory Rush actually heals for absurd amounts on the beta at the moment, which is definitely a bug, but still, even on a non-bugged server when it launches, it still heals for a lot. A warrior just has no downtime, literally 0 downtime. You're just charging from mob to mob, dead, next one, next one. Like, there's no eating as a warrior because you're going to get Victory Rush literally in the very first starting zone. So pairing your Bloodthirst with, let's say, your Victory Rush that you're going to get very early can be strong. But honestly, I would probably level as Arms because Arms is absolutely insane in Cataclysm. Another talent, but this time in the Fury tree, makes it to number 9 on my list, which is Battle Trance. Now, interestingly, this only lasted 1 expansion. It didn't exist in Wrath of the Lich King, and then it didn't exist in Mr. Pandaria, so it is just Cataclysm specific. But it's right at the top of the Fury tree, which means this is really useful for every spec. For 3 points, your Bloodthirst, Mortal Strike, and Shield Slam hits have a 15% chance to make your next special attack that costs more than 5 rage consume no rage. So this is almost the warrior equivalent of clear casting, which is pretty bonkers. Now, when I was talking about Lambs to the Slaughter and said it's not a talent that you'll really play around, as in which will affect your rotation too much, this absolutely will. Because of course, when you're using Battle Trance, you want to make sure it's on something expensive. So where a Mortal Strike costs 20 rage and Overpower only costs 5 rage, neither of those are really going to be something you're going to want to consume the proc with. But of course, Heroic Strike with a 30 rage cost absolutely will. So using a Weak Aura, for example, to make sure that you're tracking the Battle Trance procs and using it on high rage cost abilities actually just adds another layer of fun to the warrior specs. That was a fairly quick one, but like you can see from all of these points that we're talking about, the warrior has just got bonkers amounts of procs and passives and things going off, cooldowns to use, lots of abilities to press, and a lot of timing required on things like Colossus Smash. Just overall, an amazing class to play in Cataclysm. But we've still got one more, we're not done. And this is a nice easy one as well. If you're not happy with the amount of healing that Bloodthirst and Victory Rush do, you've got another heal as well now. You're going to have Enraged Regeneration, where you regenerate 30% of your total health over 10 seconds. You can further improve this with a talent, which we'll look at in a second. It can only be used while enraged, and new enrage effects may not be gained while active. Now, 30% is an absolutely huge heal, and it's only on a 3-minute cooldown. And like I say, if you pick up Field Dressing for 2 points in the arms tree, it also further increases all of your self-healing abilities by an additional 20%. So this will take it up to 36% instead of 30%. Now, of course, this is going to be really useful in PvE for certain situations where maybe you're out of range of a healer, or you just want to give your healers a bit of a hand and chuck some self-healing on. But for PvP, having a self-heal this big obviously makes the warrior even stronger than it already is. Now, in amongst my top 10 there, I've pretty much covered every new ability that you gain. There is one that I've left off, and it's incredibly strong, and one of the reasons that Arms is actually the go-to PvE spec, especially in Phase 1. And that's Deadly Calm. So we'll call this a bonus. This is a bonus number 11. So what Deadly Calm does is on a 2-minute cooldown, for the next 10 seconds, none of your abilities cost rage, but you continue to generate rage. Now, this cannot be used during Inner Rage. So Inner Rage was what we spoke about at the start, where it reduces the cooldown of Heroic Strike and Cleave by 50% for 15 seconds. These can't be used together. However, you can pop them back to back, and the fact that you're going to use Deadly Calm and get so much rage while you're already doing a lot of damage, and then when it goes down, you've got a lot of rage to be able to spend, so you use Inner Rage to be able to use more Heroic Strikes. It's just an absolutely amazing cooldown, and while I don't want to go into massive detail about it, it was worth an honorably It was just a little bonus one that I thought I'd throw in at the end. Now, overall, if you're excited for Warrior, you should still be excited for Warrior because it really is a super, super strong PvE spec, amazingly powerful in PvP, and overall just a ton of fun to play. Of course, there's tons of glyphs that get added as well, with a glyph system going from major and minor glyphs to now prime, major and minor. But quite honestly, for the Warrior, overall, it's just extra damage with most of your abilities. I won't drag it out. If you enjoyed the video, please be sure to like and subscribe. Drop a comment below. Let me know what you're excited about for Warrior. And again, Rested XP for the Cataclysm guide is in the pinned comment in the description. Feel free to go pick one up. As I say, supports the channel, so thank you in advance if you do. And I'll see you on the next one.